Good morning, Messy Sisterhood. It's Thursday. You've almost made it to Friday. Everybody on the TV here in Maryland, on the news and whatnot, they keep calling this Friday Eve. I used to work with some delightful people and as a support administrator kind of thing, and they would call this Friday Junior. But today is Thursday, and you've almost made it to Friday. And if you're tuning in with us this week because you tune in every Thursday, then welcome. And if this is your first time tuning in to Thursday Thoughts, here we are in this messy life. One of the things that hit me really deeply this week is the concept that all of us in the whole United States, in the entire North America, in the entirety of the globe, are dealing with this coronavirus in some form or another. But one of the things that hit me more deeply is a conviction and a humbling to myself, being an American, being not used to the concept that I need to wait, that I can't have what I want right now. I sound like a real brat, don't I? Like if I was a little kid and I was saying, I learned today that I needed to wait, you would be like, you bratty little kid. But this week, I did do a grocery run, an essentials run. And actually a friend and I went together apart. So we were both at the store at the same time, but we weren't doing the whole thing where people have been fussing lately on Facebook and on Nextdoor and on all these other apps about people going in pairs. We each had our own carts. We were there. We stood in line outside for about an hour and 15 minutes before they would let us in. There was a bit of emotionally overwhelming situations within the store. We happened to go to a wholesale store, and even though we were forced to stand, with good distances while we were in line for a long time, once you got into the store, people were not mindful of that at all. They were all up in your space and snatchy a little bit grabby. There was definitely a overwhelming emotional toll that the whole thing brought. You felt competitive. I did. I felt competitive. Like I didn't necessarily need something, but everybody ran over to snatch it. Like they were doing these big jugs of Lysol cleaner and stuff. And I don't really need a jug of Lysol cleaner, but I almost took one because I was like, what if I need Lysol cleaner? But there was an emotional connection that came from that. And when I got home, I was talking to my husband about it, and I was really overwhelmed that night with the Bible verse that says, don't think of yourself more highly than you ought. It wasn't very long ago that there were refugees, and there still are, but that there were refugees looking for asylum, looking for a place to be. And as a whole, not as persons, but as a whole, many people in North America, specifically in the United States, really turned their back on them and said, many things that may have been true, that most were not. But it was eye-opening to me because we had not had desperate, and we still have not had the desperate situations or the desperation that many people in other countries around the world are experiencing or have experienced. In being war-torn, in being led by a religious faction, in being or attempted to be eliminated. This is the closest that I have personally come to experiencing that intensity of what if I can't? What if I don't? And really, in all honesty, not even on the same level, just not even scraping the top of it, just this concept of what if we don't have bread? What if we don't have water? What if we don't? And it does really reveal a bit of for me personally, and again, I'm not asking for debate about this, I'm just sharing my heart, the spoilage that I have experienced in my life, being able to be an American, not born into a tremendously wealthy family, but always had the things we needed when we needed them. And if we didn't, I don't know, there was provision. So this morning, one of the things that I am pondering, that I am holding in my heart, is what can I learn from, what can I take from this situation, not just as anecdotal, not just as being reflective and deep and, those kind of things, but what really changes, There's a meme that's going around Facebook, and it says, in our struggle to get back to what's normal, remember that there are some things from normal you might not want to take with you. So I have a friend, and she has a statement. She said it to me the other day that she was having some trouble with her kids, or they were frustrating her, or they were rubbing her the wrong way or whatever. And they said, they're trying to turn me into a pearl, and it's that concept that inside the shell you're getting rubbed on, and you're getting rubbed on the oysters, moving things around, and it's just rolling around and agitating, and it's making a pearl. So in these times where we are asked to be something different than what we're used to, when we're being put into these situations of pressure, are you letting it make you into a pearl? Are you letting it convict you? Are you letting it change the way you see things? Are you mindful of the fact that it's all over? It's all over the world. In places where it was already difficult, coronavirus has not made that easier. In places where it was already difficult to get groceries, now you're stuck and the supply is low, and you can only go out once every 3 days or something like that. In families where you were already not making the bills, it was already difficult, and now it's that times 10, 100. It depends on your place, on your situation. And one of the things that brought me great comfort this week was a writing that is not mine. I did share it on my personal page, and I'm going to share it here after Thursday Thoughts this morning. But it's a very insightful comment that after this whole week of Holy Week, where we have celebrated Jesus and we have remembered he rose from the grave and he died for us, and all of those things that are very deep to us and make us see things differently. It's a comment about the difference between men and women, and how we often read and see and hear about men going up onto the mountain to be with God, or to step away from life to be with God. And they have their reasons for doing that. But this I'm going to call it a poem. This writing reminds us that in all of those times when we as women feel like we just can't get to that holy place, we just can't step out of all of the responsibilities that are laying on us, that we're carrying, no matter where we live or what culture we live in or what situation we find ourselves in. We're very much the center of what is going on inside of our homes, inside of our families, inside of our businesses. We're vital people. And it talks about how that's okay, that God knows that, because God comes to women. And if we look into the scripture, we do see that. We see that God comes to the woman at the well. That the women were out to go to the tomb to do what was a woman's job, to help put oil and spices and things on the body. And he wasn't there. And then Jesus comes to Mary. And so if in the midst of all these things, we are humbling ourselves and we are reflecting and we are paying attention, remember that it's not in a way to make us feel like you are always falling short. and you never quite get to that holy enough place, it is to remember that in doing the dishes and the laundry and the things that come with, schooling your children or changing the diapers or, making the food, doing the grocery run, standing in a line, that God comes to us. And we're not forgotten and we're not left alone to handle it all. That risen Jesus who, last week on Thursday Thoughts, I'm like shouting about, it's coming. It's not just like this huge cliff that we fall off of after Resurrection Sunday. It's a matter of he comes and he walks and he is with you and he's where you are. And sometimes we need to accept the fact that he comes to us in a time when we're trying to get away from the rubbing and the scraping and the agitation and things, but we're like that pearl, we're getting shaped and molded into the best person that God made us to be. And those things come from pressure and from agitation and from struggle. And I don't think anybody can say that they look back and without any work put in, attained anything. I mean, that you really grabbed. So like if you lost 30 pounds or something, you did something to lose that 30 pounds. And it wasn't like, because even if you had liposuction, you got bruises because that hurts a lot, or so I've heard. If things are worth getting to, if the next level is worth getting to, maybe it was a promotion, maybe you were in the military, maybe you, whatever it is that you were stretching for and striving for, it came with work, it came with adjustment, it came with change. And so, counting our blessings where we are and saying, okay, God, what can I from right here, right now learn? There's no shortcuts. There's always a downside when you take a shortcut, right? So I'm going to make it very specific here. So a lot of my friends, all of us were considering, do we make mortgage payments? Do you choose to pay the mortgage or do you choose to pay something else? Because they're giving deferment. Okay. And I used to work in the credit industry for just a very brief amount of time and had a conversation with a few friends of mine. And they were saying, remember that this is a deferment. It means that it'll make it lighter right now. But in 6 months or a year or whatever your contract time is, there will be a balloon payment. The bank will get their money. They're not saying you don't have to pay your mortgage for the next 3 months. Woo! Good thing that's off our shoulders. The payment will come due. So you have to know that it's not necessarily a shortcut as much as let me take this weight off of you for a little bit, and when you're back on your feet, you can have it back. And I don't know what everybody's situation is, so I'm not saying that with judgment. I'm just saying with information. Often if it's too good to be true, right? What does we always say? If it's too good to be true, it probably isn't. There's probably something else underlying. But this morning, one of the things that I'm just really reflecting on is that I am willing to let this experience, this situation, this virus, this season change me. And it's going to change me whether I want it to change me or not. So I want to take the good and leave the bad behind. So if there were habits that I had, if there was bratty attitudes, arrogance, or ignorance that was supporting feelings that I had, or even convictions that I had, I want to evaluate those. I still don't know what it's like to stand in line for bread and not be able to come back for another week or two or whatever and have it issued to you. But I know the amount of emotional stress that I felt just standing in line watching people walk out with the things that I needed and thinking, I hope there's going to be enough when I get in there. And those who have been through deeper and harder things, you're probably chuckling a little bit, but I share that very vulnerably to say it's scratching the surface. It's making me dig a little deeper. Lord, I want that to change me. I want it to irritate me. I want it to roll around in my soul and polish me into a pearl. I want this time of being stuck in with my family. And it's not great. Some days are just not great, right? I want to learn how to turn those things over to you. I want to say, Lord, I don't want to fight with my husband right now. Lord, I don't want to be yelling at my kids right now. I want to give that to you. Help me to major on the major things and let the minor things fall by the side. I don't want to feel trapped. I don't want to feel like this house is just not big enough. I don't want to feel like I can't believe you stuck me in this house with this man. That's not how I feel. But there are moments, we all feel that way if we're being honest. I don't want to sit here and literally lose hours in a day, if you added all the minutes up, of anxiety and panic over how is this going to get paid? What am I going to make for dinner tonight with what's in my basket? I feel like some days this whole thing is like what do you call it? Preparation for one of those cooking shows where you open the basket and there's only like 3 things in there and you have like octopus and oranges and beer. Okay, make a dinner for 4 and make it healthy. All of that time that I spend worrying that my allergy headache last night, where my eyes were just pounding and I couldn't hardly lift my head up off the pillow, going, God, please don't let this be corona. And the symptoms were not, but that's real. I think that so many of us are there, it sneaks in, it sits on your shoulder and it just whispers, what if you're next? What if you can't? What are you going to do now? In all those moments, I have had to really sit back and say, God, I don't know. I don't want to feel this anymore. I don't want to worry about that, God. Every time I feel that, I'm going to have to say, God, I'm giving that to you. Several weeks ago, I talked about breathing. My youngest and I do this thing where we sit there and yeah, okay, it's going to be okay, And I know that I'm not the only one feeling that. I know that I'm not the only one feeling that in the entire world. Instead of feeling disqualified by that, I'm sinking in and saying, wow, what a need we have for a Father, for a God who just doesn't leave us here forgotten, who says, I didn't really make you to carry that weight. Are you going to let me carry it? One of my favorite lines that Jesus says is, come to me, you who are weary and heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. He says, take on my yoke, take on my work. My burden is light. Let me have your heavy burden. So this Thursday, I am so thankful for the resurrection of Christ and the way that he didn't just rise and say, all right, guys, it's all on you. He stuck around, and we see him in Scripture for another 40 days walking with the disciples and teaching them and saying, look, I am going to have to step away, but I am going to send something better, something that can be with you all the time, and something that can carry you in a way that I cannot. And so we walk today in the light of that comforter. And I hope to talk more about that in the coming weeks. But this morning, I hope that some of the things I may have said this morning are relatable. I hope that if you're sitting in the places like I'm sitting in, or you've stood in those lines, or you've worried about those bills, or you have laid in bed and thought, could it be that virus? That you know that you're not alone. We call this the Messy Sisterhood because life is messy. And sister, we're all in it. So it's Thursday. And praise the Lord, we were going to make it to Friday. We are going to make it to Friday, and we're going to walk together. I love all of you. I'm praying for you. I appreciate you joining me this morning. Please feel free to share the video if you think that it's going to encourage someone else. And directly following this video, I'm going to post that poem for you. I hope that it encourages your heart too. God comes to women because he loves us, even in our mess. He meets us right where we are. I love you guys. Have a great week.